Hari Om. Today I'd like to continue to recite some of the words of Mahatma Gandhi on prayer. For this great saint truly had an insight into the efficacy, the power, and the purpose of prayer in our lives. He said, actually, early on in his career, and then later on toward the end, this: I would have been a lunatic long ago if it weren't for prayer. And so he's giving an indication how prayer not only gives us an avenue or a window into heaven that we can communicate with God, but also gives us stability and a sense of purpose, actual purpose and balance in our life. And it's to this he speaks thus: prayers are the only way of bringing about orderliness, peace, and repose in our daily practice. He who hungers for the awakening of the divine in him must fall back on prayer. But it is not the recitation of a set formula. It is better in prayer to have a heart without words than words without a heart. It must be in clear response for the spirit that hungers for us. Even as a hungry man will relish a hearty meal, a hungry soul will relish a heartfelt prayer. So we not only give expression to our needs and wants when we pray to the Lord, but also what is being indicated here is that our soul, in a sense, is hungering. Our soul is striving to fulfill its purpose, even in the face of a world full of oppressive and debilitating activity, where our soul is usually given hardly even second place. For we find that there's no time left in our life of accomplishment and striving to give expression to our soul. So it is through prayer that we can actually feed the inner spirit within us. The great Gandhiji went on to say, I will give you a bit of my own experience, and from that of my companions, that he who has experienced the magic of prayer may go days without food, but not a single moment without prayer. For without prayer, there is no peace. This is a direct quote from Sri Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, where he says in chapter 2, without meditation, there will be no peace to the mind. Mahatma Gandhi continues, so it is so needful for me. When it springs from a heart, prayer needs no speech. He's speaking now of an actual aspiration, of a desire and an intensity and a sincerity to communicate with God without speech. This is what Sri Ramakrishna was meaning when he said, if you have sincerity, you have everything. Many of the saints from East and West have said, longing for God is the true key to the entrance of the kingdom of heaven. Mahatma Gandhi continued, it may take time for the recitation to come from the heart, even as the seed that is sown has to be nurtured and bears fruit only in due season. If the desire to have God within us is there, progress, however slow, is bound to be. Man cannot be transformed from bad to good overnight. God does not exercise panic. This is a wonderful idea and a wonderful truth, that actually with all things God takes time. There's the expression, in God's good time things will all come to pass. For everything there is a season. This is especially true with prayer. So what we must understand, that especially if our prayer is with words and with desire for attainment, even of material things, we must be patient. We must be patient and persevere in our prayer. And hopefully, after getting the material and even the comfort of communion with God, that we will settle in our heart to just nourish our soul by simply having a yearning desire without words and just a remembrance of God. This is why many people take up the practice of mantra japa, which means calling on the name of the Lord. St. Paul in the Bible was speaking of this exact thing when he said, "Pray ceaselessly." This accustoms the heart to actually express a yearning for God, to express a communion, and in a sense, a brothership, a brotherhood with the Lord. And it is through this power of prayer and the heart full of desire to become a child of God in the truest sense. For even the truth in the Vedas is said that we cannot become God, but we can become like God. We can become likened by God. We can love God and have God love us in return. These things are accomplished by a heart full of love in silent prayer, which is developed by prayer with words, prayer with desire. All these things are in a sense stages by which we will slowly and eventually come to quietly have that still voice within us which yearns for the Lord. Om.